Working families throughout San Diego County were unable to keep up with the cost of living last year, says a new report by the Center on Policy Initiatives. Specifically, CPI found full-time employees in our region's biggest industries earned less or about the same as they did 5 years ago. The average household income in the county dropped by more than $2,000 and just over $59,000 a year. Of the 15% of San Diegans living in poverty, a little more than a third are employed, and about 30% are children. Here with more on the report is Corinne Wilson, Director of Research and Policy at CPI, and Marney Cox, Chief Economist at SANDAG. Thank you both for being here. Corinne, my first question to you is, in the report, it says that the spending power of people in San Diego from these paychecks is less. What does that mean?
That means that you can buy less this year with the same amount of money or with your paycheck than you were able to last year. So while we're working, we can't buy the same like we were last year.
So even if the incomes stay the same, it has a different impact on what you're able to purchase because of the cost of living.
Yes.
Okay. And also, as far as the report goes, what kind of industries here in San Diego are we talking about that's not keeping up as far as income and raises?
Well, what we're seeing is, for example, the lowest median earning industry in San Diego County, which is the accommodation and food service industry, so the tourism industry, basically was stagnant for the last 5 years. So people in that industry are actually bringing home less than $25,000 a year. And then also the new largest industry in the region by number of employees, full-time employees, is the healthcare and social assistance industry. And also, while it's the biggest, it also had stagnant earnings.
So stagnant earnings across the board. Marney, SANDAG has tracked since the recession, if not before, the economic health of San Diego. How is the recession impacting still, or has it impacted these earnings?
Well, actually, we're seeing a continuation of a trend that's been going on almost since the late 80s or so, something like that, where we're seeing a lot more growth in low value-added jobs or low-paying jobs, and a lot less growth in either middle or high-paying jobs, almost to the effect where high-paying jobs are growing, but 8 times more low-paying jobs are being added. Even if you add middle to the high, you still get 2 times the number of people who are finding jobs in the low-paying industries in either the middle or high. And so this has a tendency to put a lot of pressure on your median or your average because you're adding so many jobs at the bottom.
Marney, did anything in this report surprise you?
Yeah, actually there were a couple things. One, the number of people who are in poverty did not significantly increase, whereas the nation and the state of California, they did. So what is it about San Diego that was able to hold that number? And then the second thing is that our income fell by about 3%. I thought that was pretty high, as opposed to, I was estimating somewhere around a 2% decline this particular year as opposed to 3%. So that's pretty big. Even though we did better than both the state and the nation, it was still a 3% decline. Very difficult to make up for that decline if you think about how long it takes household incomes to rise at the other side of this.
Yeah. How about you, Corinne? Can you explain about 15% of San Diegans, as you said, comparatively doesn't sound, too bad, but it's still not great. What are the federal guidelines that puts people into that level of below poverty or at poverty?
Well, the thresholds, Peggy, are about $11,484 for a single person. That means if you make less than that, you're in poverty. Or for a family of 4 with so say 2 parents with 2 children, that is actually, I have it somewhere. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's actually just a little bit less than $23,000. So to think about how you would be making ends meet just on that little amount of money, we actually talk about economic hardship, or the ability to kind of pay your bills, starts at about 200% or 2 times the federal poverty level. So for a family of 4, that's more around $46,000 a year. But at that rate, you're still looking at if you have an unexpected expense, such as a medical expense, you're having to make difficult decisions.
Which is difficult for everyone, but especially if you're earning $11,000 a year as a person, or $23,000 for a family. I know that different poverty rates occurred throughout the city. What were the differences?
We're looking at, for example, in El Cajon, it had the highest with close to one of every 4 people in El Cajon living in poverty. And Chula Vista actually had the lowest with just approximately 12% of everyone in Chula Vista living in poverty.
Interesting breakdown. Marney, what needs to happen locally to increase incomes here and decrease poverty?
Well, we need to create some more jobs. Good example of that, during 2011, the last full year we have data for, we only created 8,000 jobs. Proportionally, if we created our proportion of the national, we should have created 18,000 jobs because we created 1.8 million at the national level. So San Diego is not responding to coming out of the recession, even as well as the nation is responding, and the nation, as everybody knows,
when it comes to job
growth.
development.
Yeah. And so the first way to fight poverty as well as high unemployment rate is to create jobs. And San Diego is sort of trailing the national level in that area. So that's probably the first thing we need to do. The second thing is the type of job growth, right? The quality of the job. We're spending a lot of money today producing the infrastructure that would actually employ people at the lower end of the wage scale as opposed to the middle or upper end.
Okay, well, thank you both. We are out of time. There's a lot more information about this on our website, kpbs.org. And thank you both for talking with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.